Good morning, students. Today we'll talk about the tibia. Tibia is one of the two bones which forms the leg. It is also called shin bone because most of its anterior surface and the anterior border is subcutaneous and it is called the shin of the leg. Out of the two bones which form the leg, this one is the medial bone, and it is the second longest bone in the body just after femur. If you look at the shaft of the body, shaft of the tibia, the shaft appears to be twisted medially, like this. This appears to be twisted medially, and it is the weight-bearing bone of the body. All the weight that comes from hip to the femur goes through the tibia to the ankle. Now tibia is homologous to radius of the forearm. For side determination, we must first know that there is an upper end, a lower end, and a shaft. The upper end is broad. As you can see, this is broad. There is an anterior border which is sharp. This one right here. This you can see, this is an anterior border. This is sharp. This is projected anteriorly, as you can see. Then there is medial malleolus. This is the medial malleolus. This is a projection that overhangs the lower end of the bone, and this is present medially. If we talk about the medial plateau, the tibial plateau. Tibial plateau is the upper end of the tibia, where the condyles of the femur are articulating. The tibial plateau lies in a horizontal plane. So we have to keep the bone vertically. The bone is kept vertically, so the tibial plateau is in a horizontal plane and the upper end is broad. Medial malleolus is directed medially and the sharp anterior border is directed forwards. This was the side determination of tibia. Now, there are several features of different parts of the bone. First we'll discuss the upper end. Now the upper end is, if we see the size of the upper end, this is the transverse border, this is the transverse axis, and this is the anterior posterior axis. It is broader in the transverse axis as compared to the anterior posterior axis. Now it has the parts of upper end are, it has two condyles. This one is the medial condyle, and this is the lateral condyle. And in between these two condyles is the intercondylar area. This is a rough area which is called the intercondylar area. Apart from this, there is another part of the upper end which is called the tibial tuberosity. This one right here is the tibial tuberosity. Tibial tuberosity is present in the anterior end of the two condyles. Now we'll talk about the different parts of anterior end separately. First, there is the lateral condyle. This one, if we look at just the condyles and not the side determination of the bone, we can easily demarcate which one is the lateral condyle and which is the medial condyle by this size. The articular area, superior articular area of the lateral condyle is bigger as compared to the medial condyle. So this one is the lateral condyle, and this right here is the medial condyle. If we see posteriorly, this is the posterior surface. This is the posterior surface. The lateral condyle overhangs the posterior surface more as compared to the medial condyle. Both of these condyles overhang the posterior surface, but lateral one overhangs more than the medial condyle. Now the condyles have different surfaces. This right here is the superior articular surface. Then there is an anterior surface, a posterior surface, and a lateral surface. The anterior surface has a triangular area. This triangular area right here, this triangular area which ends in the tibial tuberosity, it is a part of the lateral condyle. This anterior surface of lateral condyle gives attachment to the iliotibial tract. And below the iliotibial tract there is the infrapatellar bursa. The infrapatellar bursa is related to the anterior surface of the lateral condyle and even to the lower part of the tibial tuberosity. Then there is this was the anterior surface. The lateral surface has a patellar ligament attached to it. The posterior surface This is the this right here is the posterior surface of the lateral condyle. It has a fibular facet. Here, right here is the fibular facet. Fibular facet is a place where the head of fibula articulates with the tibia. This is the inferior part of the if we as you can see, it is the inferior part of the posterior. It is continuous with the posterior surface, and it is present on the inferior part of the lateral condyle. Between this fibular facet and the superior surface, there is a groove. There is a groove. This groove is for the tendon of popliteus muscle, and between the bone and the muscle there is a bursa. So this was the posterior surface of the lateral condyle. Now the superior surface. Superior surface has an articular facet. This articular facet articulates with the lateral condyle of the femur. Medially it is prolonged. Here you can see it is prolonged, and it overhangs the intercondylar area. Intercondylar area has two intercondylar tubercles, one lateral and one medial tubercle. The lateral condyle on the superior surface overhangs the lateral intercondylar tubercle, and the superior surface is peripherally flattened for the attachment of lateral meniscus. This was about the lateral condyle. Now we'll talk about the medial condyle. The medial condyle, as you can see, the superior it can be easily differentiated from the lateral condyle by its size. It is the smaller one, superior articular facet. The superior articular facet of the condyle, which is smaller, is the medial condyle. The anterior and medial surfaces of the medial condyle have various vascular foramina. The superior surface has an oval facet. This oval facet on the medial side overhangs the intercondylar tubercle of the intercondylar area. Posteriorly, the posterior surface of the medial condyle has a groove. This groove is for the tendon of semimembranosus. Above this groove, there is attachment of tibial collateral ligament. It's posterior, short posterior fibers. On the medial surface, there is medial patellar ligament attached. So in summary, the medial condyle and this is the lateral condyle and this is the medial condyle. Each of these condyles have various surfaces. The lateral condyle has a superior surface, anterior surface, lateral surface, and posterior surface. And the medial condyle has a superior surface, anterior surface, posterior surface, and a medial surface. The superior articular facets of both lateral and medial condyles articulate with the lateral and medial condyle of the femur. The anterior surface of the lateral condyle has attachment of iliotibial tract. The posterior surface of the lateral condyle has a groove for the tendon of popliteus muscle. The anterior surface of the medial condyle has vascular foramina. The posterior surface of the medial condyle has a groove for the tendon of semimembranosus, and the medial surface has attachment to the patellar ligament. This was about the two condyles of tibia. Now this intercondylar area, as you can see, this intercondylar area, it is anteriorly and posteriorly broad, and it is narrower in the middle. This narrow part in the middle has two tubercles, one lateral and one medial. The lateral one is overhanged by the lateral superior articular surface of the lateral condyle, and the medial tubercle is overhanged by the superior articular surface of the medial condyle. Now these two tubercles along with the groove in between them are called this structure in total is called the iliotibial eminence. Because of these two tubercles, the iliotibial eminence is divided into two parts, anterior and posterior. Anterior intercondylar area and posterior intercondylar area. Now the attachment in the intercondylar area from before backwards is very important and is often asked in exams. The attachments are as follows from before backwards. Most anteriorly, there is the anterior horn of medial meniscus. Then there is the anterior cruciate ligament. Then there is anterior horn of lateral meniscus. Then posterior horn of lateral meniscus. Then posterior horn of the medial meniscus. And then lastly, posterior cruciate ligament. I'll repeat it. The most anteriorly there is the anterior horn of the medial meniscus. Then there is anterior cruciate ligament. Then anterior horn of lateral meniscus. Posterior horn of lateral meniscus. Posterior horn of medial meniscus. Then posterior cruciate ligament. This was about the intercondylar area. Now we'll talk about the tibial tuberosity. This right here is the tibial tuberosity. If we see the intercondylar area, anteriorly it projects forwards in a triangular area that ends in the tibial tuberosity. Now the tibial tuberosity has two parts. It has an upper smoother area and lower rough area. The importance of this demarcation of smooth and rough area is that the epiphyseal line passes in between the smooth and rough area of the tibial tuberosity. The upper smooth part gives attachment to the ligamentum patellae, and the lower rough part has an relation with the infrapatellar bursa. This was about the tibial tuberosity. Now we'll talk about the shaft of the tibia. Now shaft of tibia is prismoid in shape, or if we see in cross section it will be triangular in shape. It is broader in the upper end and it gradually narrows down as it moves downwards. It has three borders and three surfaces. Its most prominent border which we can see is the anterior border, which is also important for the side determination of the bone. So the three borders that we can see in the tibia are the anterior border, the lateral or the interosseous border, and the medial border. Now the anterior border, as we know, it is one of the parts of the side determination. This is one of the most prominent borders of tibia. This starts just below the tibial tuberosity and ends downwards, and it goes downwards. Then on the lateral side there is a very sharp border which is called the interosseous border. It is also the lateral border, as this is the lateral border of the tibia. And on medial side we'll see another border which is not very prominent in the middle, but it is sharper on the edges. This is called the medial border. Now this anterior border, we'll talk about the anterior border first. This anterior border, this is the main part of the bone which is called the shin. This is mostly subcutaneous. It starts from the tuberosity and it ends into the anterior margin of the medial meniscus, medial malleolus. So it starts from the tibial tuberosity, goes vertically downwards, then twists a little to go to the anterior border of the medial malleolus. Then it gives attachment to the deep fascia of the leg, which is also called fascia crura. And now immediately above the medial malleolus, this is the medial malleolus, immediately above it, this border gives attachment to the extensor retinaculum. Here the great saphenous vein and the saphenous nerve crosses this border. So this was about the anterior border. Starts from the tibial tuberosity up to the anterior margin of the medial malleolus and gives attachment to the deep fascia of the leg, and crossed by great saphenous vein and saphenous nerve in the lower part. Now we'll talk about the lateral border or the interosseous border. This is a very sharp border which is on the lateral part of the bone. It starts from the fibular facet. Fibular facet we studied on the upper end is the part where the head of fibula articulates with the tibia. It starts from below there and goes downwards up to the lower end of the bone. Now in the lower end of the bone it divides into two parts which go separately to form a fibular notch. So this right here, this is a fibular, this triangular area is a fibular notch, and the interosseous border goes in front and behind it. As the name suggests, the interosseous border gives attachment to the interosseous membrane up to the tip of the fibular notch. This is the fibular, this triangular is the fibular notch. Up to this point, it gives attachment to the interosseous membrane. This interosseous membrane is slightly deficient in the upper part, from where the anterior tibial artery enters the anterior compartment of the leg. The lower part of the interosseous border, where the interosseous membrane terminates, it is continuous here as an inferior tibiofibular ligament, or it's also called the interosseous tibiofibular ligament. The interosseous tibiofibular ligament is an important part of the complex of tibia and fibula, because this is called the tibiofibular syndesmosis. It gives stability to the ankle. This was about the interosseous border. Now we'll talk about the medial border. This one is the medial border. It starts from the posterior surface of the medial condyle up to the anterior border of the medial malleolus. It is joined by a soleal line. Soleal line is a feature which is seen in the posterior surface of the bone. This right here, this oblique thing is the soleal line. This crosses the posterior border in the upper 1/3 part. Then it goes downwards up to the posterior border of the medial malleolus. And the attachment of medial border is as follows. Above this is the demarcation where it is crossed by the soleal line. Above this demarcation, there is attachment of tibial collateral ligament and the fascia, which covers the popliteus muscle. And on the soleal line, there is the soleus muscle and the fascia covering the soleus muscle. And below this line, there is deep fascia of the leg and the deep transverse fascia. These are the attachments of the medial border of the tibia. So we covered the borders. Now we'll talk about the surfaces. There are three surfaces in tibia. There is a medial surface. Medial surface is between the anterior and medial border. There is a lateral surface which is between the anterior and the interosseous border, and there is a posterior surface which is between the interosseous and the medial borders. First we'll talk about the medial surface. Now this is the medial surface. This is the medial surface of the tibia. It is between the anterior border. This is the anterior border, and this is the medial border. This is the medial surface of the body. Now there is a specific area in the upper part of this surface which measures about 5 cm by 1 cm. This gives attachment to the long fibers of tibial collateral ligament or the medial collateral ligament of knee joint, and it also gives insertion to semimembranosus. Now if we go towards the anterior border in the upper part, if we go towards the anterior border, there is it gives attachment to three muscles. These three muscles are as follows. The first muscle which comes is the sartorius muscle, and just behind sartorius there is gracilis and semitendinosus. These three muscles are separated from bone by a bursa which is called the anserine bursa. The lower part of the surface does not have any attachment or anything. This is only crossed by some structures like great saphenous vein and the saphenous nerve. This was about the medial surface of the tibia. Now we'll talk about the lateral surface. Now, the lateral surface is between the interosseous border. This is the interosseous border, and this is the anterior border. In between the anterior border and the interosseous border. Now, if we see the direction of this surface, it is directed downwards, and then it encroaches anteriorly. So there is an anterior deviation of this surface. a part of the lateral surface is anterior to the bone. The upper 2/3 of this surface gives origin to the tibialis anterior muscle, which is the main muscle of this bone. Now the lower one third of this bone has various relations, which include tibialis anterior, extensor hallucis longus, anterior tibial artery and vein, deep peroneal nerve, extensor digitorum longus, and peroneus tertius. All these structures are related to the lower one third of the lateral surface of the tibia. Now we'll talk about the posterior surface. The posterior surface is between the interosseous border and the medial border of the tibia. Prominent feature of the posterior surface is the soleal line. This is an oblique line which goes from above downwards up to the posterior border, up to the medial border of the tibia. This soleal line divides the posterior surface of the bone into two parts: upper part, part above the soleal line, and part below the soleal line. Now the part below the soleal line is further divided by a vertical ridge. This vertical ridge divides this bone into two parts, lower part of this bone into two parts, one medial part and one lateral part. This is the medial part and this is the lateral part. Now the part above the soleal line gives attachment to the popliteus muscle, and it forms a part of the popliteal fossa. So it's one of the important parts of popliteal fossa, which gives attachment to popliteus muscle. Now the soleal line, this gives attachment to the soleus muscle and the fascia covering the soleus and the popliteus muscle. And it also gives attachment to the deep transverse fascia. And the tendinous arch for soleus, the tendinous arch for attachment of soleus is on the upper end of the soleal line. Here there is a tendinous arch for attachment of soleus muscle. Now the lower part of the bone below the soleal line is divided into lateral and medial parts. On the medial part there is origin of flexor digitorum longus, and on the lateral part there is origin of tibialis posterior. Tibialis posterior is close to the interosseous border, and the flexor digitorum longus is close to the medial border. The posterior surface on the lower end, the posterior surface is related to the tibialis posterior, posterior tibial vessels, deep peroneal nerve, and the flexor hallucis longus. This was about the shaft of the tibia. Now we'll talk about the lower end. Now lower end of bone, this is the medial side, this is the lateral side, this is anterior, and this is posterior. This is the lower end of the bone. The surfaces are anterior surface, posterior surface, lateral surface, medial surface, and inferior surface. The anterior surface, it is separated from the inferior surface by a groove, which is for the attachment of the ankle joint capsule. This is for the attachment of ankle joint capsule. Now the relations from medial to lateral are as follows: tibialis anterior, extensor hallucis longus, anterior tibial artery, deep peroneal nerve, extensor digitorum longus, and peroneus tertius. These are all the anterior relations of the lower end of tibia. Now posteriorly, the posterior surface, if you see the posterior surface, there is just here there is attachment of the posterior part of the capsule of ankle joint. Now we'll talk about the medial surface. The medial surface, as you can see, it extends below into the medial malleolus. Now, lateral surface, this is the lateral surface. It has a fibular notch, which we discussed earlier. The fibular notch is a triangular area where the lower end of fibula attaches with the tibia. The anterior and posterior margins, these are the anterior and posterior margins of the fibular notch. These give attachment to the anterior and posterior tibiofibular ligaments. And as we discussed earlier, at the apex of this fibular notch, there is attachment of the interosseous tibiofibular ligament, which is also called the inferior tibiofibular syndesmosis. It gives more stability to the inferior tibiofibular joint. The inferior surface, as you can see, it has an articular area. This whole area is articular area of the inferior surface. This articulates with the talus to form the talocrural joint or the ankle joint. Now we'll talk about medial malleolus. Medial malleolus has a separate 4 surfaces. It has a medial surface, a lateral surface, an anterior surface, a posterior surface, and a tip. Now the lateral surface, as you can see, it has an articular area. This articular area also articulates with the talus. So this whole area with the lower end and the medial malleolus articulates with the talus. Anteriorly, there is capsular ligament of ankle joint. Medial part of the medial malleolus, this whole area is subcutaneous. And the posterior, there is a groove for tendon of tibialis posterior. If we see at the medial malleolus, there are 2 grooves. One groove which goes anterior to the medial malleolus and one groove which goes posterior to the medial malleolus. Anterior groove is for tibialis anterior and the posterior groove is for tibialis posterior. This was all about the bone. Now we'll talk about some morphological importances and the applied anatomy of the bone. Now if we see the medial collateral ligament or the tibial collateral ligament, this is actually the degenerated tendon of the adductor magnus. Then there is the fibular collateral ligament or the lateral ligament, which is the degenerated tendon of peroneus longus. The cruciate ligaments, which are seen in between the 2 condyles, they are actually the collateral ligaments of the original femorotibial joints. Now something about the applied anatomy of the bone. This is a very strong bone and it is a weight bearing bone. If we see the anterior margin of the or the anterior border of the tibia, at the junction of the middle 1/3 of the shaft, this area is the most dense area of the bone. It is made up of thickened compact bone or cortex. So when we are in need of bone grafts, this is the area of choice. If we look at the nutrient foramen can be seen closer to the posterior, closer to the medial border in the upper 1/3 of the medial surface of the bone. This right here is the nutrient foramen. This is the nutrient foramen of the tibia. This is the largest nutrient foramen that we can see in any bone of the body. And if any fracture involves this nutrient foramen, so this leads to non-union of the fracture because it does not heal on its own and it requires assistance. Now the upper end of tibia is one of the most common sites of osteomyelitis. And if we talk about lesions, some syphilitic lesions are seen in tibia in form of chronic osteitis or periostitis. If we see in congenital syphilis, there is a condition which is called saber shin, in which the bone, tibia, is flattened from side to side and the bone is thick and rough. the anterior surface of the bone is convex. There is the anterior surface of the bone is more convex. Tibia is one of the most common long bones to be fractured because of its close proximity to the skin, and mostly if there is a fracture, it is a compound fracture. Brody's abscess is an abscess which can affect tibia on both ends. So the upper end and lower end both are affected by Brody's abscess. The most common site of fracture in tibia is at the junction of lower 1/3 and middle 1/3 of the bone. So this right here is the most common area of fracture. There is a condition which is called bow legs, which is seen in rickets due to deficiency of calcium. There is distortion of the anatomy of tibia bone. There is bowing of the legs by bending of the tibia outwards, and there is concavity inwards. There is another type of fracture seen in tibia which is called bumper fracture. This fracture is common in tibia because of its close proximity to the skin. When a person is hit by the bumper of a car, the anterior surface and the anterior border of the tibia gets impact, and this fracture which occurs is called the bumper fracture. Now there is another thing which is called the angle of tibial torsion. This is an angle which is made between two horizontal lines. First horizontal line is drawn between the two condyles. So this is the first horizontal line, and the second horizontal line passes between the two malleoli, the medial and the lateral malleolus. The medial malleolus is in the tibia and the lateral malleolus is in the fibula. So the angle between these two horizontal lines is called the angle of tibial torsion. This angle ranges from 0 to 40 degrees, and on an average it is equal to 15.2 degrees. This was all about the bone tibia.